So the last thing we have to do for our concrete structural system is change the slab. Now the way I showed in the previous floors tutorial is sort of a generic 12-inch floor that can account for a number of different things, and it's just sort of a massing floor. We want to do a couple things. We want to change the profile of this, or the boundary, so that it ends at our concrete system, and then we want to change the material and the structural depth of it. So first, go into a 3D mode. You could do this in a 2D mode, but the way I showed you for the structural visual template, you're going to have to turn your floors on in the visibility graphics. So we're going to go here and hit apply, and you can see that the perimeter shows up. Now you can still see through it because this is a structural mode, so it allows you to see through floors, but I'm going to go ahead and keep that turned off. And I think a simpler method is to just go into a 3D view and click the floor that you want. Now you can double click this and you get into this sort of pink edge edit boundary mode, or you can click the element and hit edit boundary. Now if we go back to a level 2, you can see that perimeter, and we want to go ahead and just delete some of these lines and redraw some of these elements. So I'm going to use the sketch tools here. And just finish out the rest of this sketch. I tend to use the trim tool a lot. TR is the command when sketching. And now you can see this goes to the perimeter of my concrete system. Now there is a beam span, a span direction, but we don't really need to pay attention to that for the slab. So I'm going to hit check here. And I forgot one thing. So I forgot to edit that. So let's continue and use trim again. And now when I hit check, it should be good. So you might have some walls that are attached to your floors. You can go ahead and detach those. That's fine. And now if I go back to my structural mode, you can see that this is changed. We can go to the visibility graphics, and again, in the template that I showed you to create, I turned the floor transparency to about 60. Let's just turn that down for a second so we can see what happens to the material. Now if I select this object, we need to change a few things. It's a little bit too deep for one, but it's also the wrong material. So because there's no generic concrete floor for slab, we need to create one. So I'm going to go to edit type. We're going to duplicate this and we're going to call it concrete slab. And we're going to give a structural dimension so I know which one I'm choosing. And we can't change the thickness here, and this is because this is a layup. There are multiple things that we can add to this floor, and we can't just change the thickness. So what we have to do is we have to edit the structure. So when we edit that structure, you can see that we can actually add things. So we can add things like insulation and structure itself. But we just want to keep this one single boundary. First, we want to change the material. And you want to scroll down until you get a concrete cast in place gray. I'm going to hit OK there. And I'm going to change this thickness to 6 inches. And I'm going to keep that on a structural material. And now when I hit OK, you can see that default thickness has changed. We don't need to change anything else. And now, because I've changed my floor transparency, you can see that this material is the same material as the beams and the columns. Let's go ahead and change this back to 60. And there you go. That's your slab system for your concrete system. Now we don't have to worry about modifying the openings here because we're going to do that in a separate step where we can cut all through all the floors and cut through the whole building with vertical shafts.